Alright, so we're going to move into Chapter 3, Lesson 3. So this is multiplying decimals by whole numbers. So we've done addition and subtraction. Now we're going to start moving into multiplying with decimals. Okay, we skipped Lesson 2 because that's all about estimating. We're not working with that this year, so we're going to move right into Lesson 3. So, bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants. It can grow about 4 9/10 of feet, 4.9 feet in height per day. It is a favorite food of pandas, or panda bears. You can use repeated addition to find the total height of a bamboo plant that can grow over a number of days. So it says complete the table below. The first one is done for you. So they did 2 days. Well, it grows 4.9 plus 4.9, that equals 9.8. Okay, they also showed multiplication as well. So if we did 3 days, it's going to be 4.9, 4.9, 4.9. Okay, so then you add those all up, and you should get, I want to say 14.7, but I want to double check my math, so I'm going to do this real quick. And yes, it's 14.7. So if we did the multiplication route, it would have been 3 times 4.9, which is 14.7. Okay, for 4 days, it would be 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9. Okay, you add those all up and you get 19.6. Okay, so then we multiply 4 times 4.9, you get 19.6. Now 5 days, it's going to be 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9. Okay, you add those all up and you get 24.5. Okay, or just do 5 times 4.9, you get 24.5. Okay, it says use the pattern to predict 6 times 4.9. It says check by using repeated addition. Well, if you multiply that out, if you look, it's going up by so much each time. If you look, there's a pattern. It goes up by 5s in the whole numbers, and it goes down at 1 in there. So I can automatically just say it's going to be 29.4. And to double check that would be 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9, 4.9 plus 4.9 plus 4.9. Add that all up, you get 29.4. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and skip this part, and I'm going to go on to the next page. Okay, so now we're going to talk about multiplying with decimals. Alright, so when you multiply with decimals, it says using repeated addition can help you place a decimal point. The whole number represents the number of times the decimal is used as an add-in. So place the decimal point and the product the same number of places from the right of. Okay, what that means is, like I was talking about in the first couple before when we were multiplying and dividing with decimals. Okay, when you go to actually write this up, 4 times 83 hundredths. Okay, since this one has more digits, I'm going to put that one on top like they did. Okay, then I multiply by 4. Okay, once again, that decimal point does not mean anything until the very end, until your answer. So they went ahead and multiplied. So 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, 4 times 8 is 32 plus 1, that's 33. Well, that's 0, so we just go ahead and put that 4 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. Okay, now, this decimal point moves 2 times to the left in the answer, so that's how that would work. Okay, number 2, same thing. 3 times 14 and 2/10, 14.2. Alright, that one would go on top, and then you just multiply it out. And then the answer is where you move the decimal. Since there's only one number after the decimal here, I only move it one time. So let's do example number 3 together. Okay, we don't have to worry about the estimation. I'm not worried about that. But if you were to set up the bar diagram here, okay, what this means is we have 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, of 95 hundredths. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually write this out and multiply it. So they put 95 hundredths on top because that has more digits. Okay, that's why they did that, times 4. So 4 times 5, well, that's 20. 4 times 9, that's 36 plus 2, that's 38. And then 4 times 0, 0 plus 3 is 3. So now we have to move the decimal point 2 times. Okay, So then we move it there. Okay, and so your answer, once you're said and done with it, is 3 80/100ths, or 3 8/10, 3.8. Okay, because 95/100ths has 2 decimal points. That's why we had to move it twice. There's 2 numbers after the decimal, so that means that you have to move it 2 times. That's how that works. Okay, so you gotta place it 2 places from the right. So let's do some more of those. So let's jump over to page 197. 197. We're going to do number 1 together. Okay, so we have 1 2/10 times 7. 1.2 times 7. Okay, but I wrote the 1.2 on top because it has more digits. You always put the one that has the longer number, basically, the more digits on top. So now, all we do is multiply. That decimal means nothing until the very end. So 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1, that's 7, plus 1 is 8. Now, this has 1 decimal place. It has 1 number after it, 1. So I only move the decimal once right there. So your answer is 8 4/10, 8.4. Okay, number 2. We have 7/10 times 9. Now, both of these have the same amount. You can add your 0, but you don't have to. It's not necessary. But you can if you want. Totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and add it since I've already wrote it down. So then 9 times 7, 63. 9 times 0 plus 6, 6. Then we look at this. We look that we have 1 number after the decimal. This one doesn't have a decimal, so that doesn't count. If this doesn't have a decimal, you can't count it. They only count the numbers after a decimal. So in this case, we have 1, so I move it once. 6 3/10. Okay, number 3. 2 times 1 3/10. Okay, just because this comes second doesn't mean it goes on the bottom in your multiplication. Because it has more digits, it's got 2 rather than 1, I put that one on top, 2 goes on the bottom. Now, all I gotta do is multiply. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 1, 2. Now, if you look, after decimal places, we have 1. This one doesn't have a decimal, so I'm going to look at it. This is the only one that has a decimal, so it only has 1 number after it, so I just move it once again. 2 6/10, 2.6. Alright, so that's how you multiply with decimals. So go ahead and go back, and I want you guys to do A, B, and C on page 194. So on page 194, I need you to do A, B, and C, and then come back and we'll work on these together. Alright, now that you're back, let's go ahead and do A, B, and C, okay? So I'm going to do A up here. So 25/100ths times 5, okay? 5 times 5, 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Now I look, this one has 2 decimal places, so I have to move it twice. So my answer is 1 25/100ths. 1.25. Okay, now letter B, we have 4 47/100ths times 8. More digits, so I put it on top. Now, 7 times 8, 56. Sorry, I can't write. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 5, 37. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3, 35. Now, we have to move the decimal point 2 times. So your answer is going to be 35 76/100ths. 35.76. Okay, and letter C, 2 63/100ths times 9. So, go ahead and start multiplying out. 9 times 3, 27. 9 times 6, 54, plus 2, that's 56. 9 times 2, that's 18, plus 5, 23. Move the decimal twice, and my answer is 23 67/100ths, 23.67. So that's how you multiply with decimals, okay? Follow the same set of rules every time. Alright, now, sometimes you might have to annex some zeros. You might have to add a 0. Okay, if that's the case, just place it in there. It's not a big deal. So, like example number 2 here, we have 2 times 18 thousandths, 0.018. Okay, so all we're doing is multiplying. So 2 times 8, 16. Alright, put a 1 up there. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 1 is 3. 2 times 0, 0. 2 times 2, 0, 0. So this time we have to annex, or we have to move the decimal 3 times. So So 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you might have to annex a 0, sometimes you might not to. Or might not have to. Alright, so let's look at this one, number 5. Okay, so 4 times 12 thousandths. Okay, there are 3 decimal places because there's 3 numbers after the decimal. So eventually we might have to annex a 0. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. Okay, so you have to annex a 0 like we just did. That's why they put that there, to make 3 decimal places. Okay, so now we got to move it. 1, 2, 3. So we get 48 thousandths, 0.048. And you can put a 0 there if you want, you don't have to. To double check this, you just add it up. And it's the same answer. That's repeated addition. So let's jump back over to page 197 again. We're going to do a couple more of those. Okay, so number 4 here. Okay, we got 0.8, 8 tenths times 9. Okay, like I was saying, if you need to annex a 0, annex a 0. You don't have to, but you can. So 8 times 9, 72. Well, we got to bring that over. So 9 times 0, 0, 7. 1 decimal point, so there we go. Alright, let's do number 6 now. So number 6, we have 36 ten thousandths times 19. Well, that one's longer, so I'm going to put that one on top. So 0 times 19. Alright, so 9 times 6 is 54. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 5 is 32. 9 times 0 is 0, plus 3. 9 times 0, 9 times 0. Okay, now we got to move down to 1, so we have to annex 0 onto the next one. So then 1 times 6, 6. 1 times 3, 3. 1 times 0, 0. 1 times 0, 0, 0. So then we add this all up. Okay, if you look, this one has 4 decimal places, so I have to move the decimal 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is, you don't put that extra 0. It's not needed. You can put the 1 in front of the decimal, but you don't put 2. That's not how it's written. You write it just like this, or you can write it like this, without the 0 in the front. Those are your 2 options of writing this answer right here. Okay, so that's what we have to do there. So go ahead and go back. Go ahead and go back and do D, E, and F on page 195. So pause the video, do D, E, and F, just multiplication, and then come back and we'll go through them together. Now that you're back, let's go ahead and do letter D. So we have 2 hundredths times 3. Well, 2 times 3, that's 6. 0 times 3 is 0. We got to move the decimal 2 times. 6 hundredths. And like I said, you can put a 0 there or you don't have to. Those are how they're written both ways. Okay, letter E. Okay, so 12 hundredths times 8. So 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and 8 times 0, 0. You got to move it twice. So your answer is 0.96, 96 hundredths, or you can just write it like that. 2 different ways, both the same answer. Up to you guys. Okay, and then the last one, 45 thousandths times 11. So 5 times 1, 5. 5 times, or 1 times 4, 4. 0, 0. 1 times 5, 5. 1 times 4, 4. 1 times 0, 0. 1 times 0, 0. Add that up, 5, 9, 4, 0, 0. Now we have to go back and look. So once again, this one has 3 decimal places, so we got to move it 3 times. So your answer could be 0.495 or just 495 thousandths. Okay? So that is how you multiply with decimals. Alright? So take your time. The decimal point doesn't mean anything until the very end, not until the answer. Okay? So one more thing you might see is just a story problem. So a batch of trail mix calls for 1.2 pounds, 1 2/10 pounds of dry cereal. Najila I guess that's how you say her name, is making 5 batches of trail mix. She already has 2.2 pounds of cereal. How many more pounds of dry cereal does she need? Well, first off, you have to multiply to figure out what it is, how much she needs altogether. Well, she needs 6 pounds of cereal altogether. So then, since she's already got 2.2 pounds, you got to subtract that away. Okay, so in this case, multiply first and then subtract. It just depends on the situation. But once again, all you're doing is multiplying with decimals. So it's all multiplication this chapter, or this lesson. Sorry. Okay, there's not an IXL with this. I want you guys to get caught up as much as possible. There's a lot of people that still have a lot of missing assignments, so you need to continue working on those. Alright, so with that, this is chapter 3, lesson 3, just multiplying decimals.